On. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another special episode of Crashing Thunders. I'm your host, Thunders, and I'm here with the legendary Paul Solger and Daniel House of 10 Minute Warning and so much more. Daniel House owned CZ Records for a time, which was a major alternative label, if you will, back in the day. Has a lot of history within a scene that blew up unexpectedly. But most importantly, this is about 10 Minute Warning and their latest vinyl release, which is coming out, which is fantastic. This could be heaven. I've got Paul Solger and Daniel House. How are you guys?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm
doing
great.
Good, Andy. Doing good.
So obviously you have a new record out, and maybe we could talk a little bit about that going out of it. What were the origins of these recordings? Where were they recorded and how were they found? Because this isn't the first Lost Recordings record that's come out by you guys, but it's totally different than the first one here.
Yeah. Okay, if I move ahead with this, Paul?
Got it.
All right. Well, the difference between the previous Lost Recording records and this particular one is that that first one, the one that Blaine put out, the one that you held up there, that was more kind of odds and sods, and there's some live recordings, and it's kind of it's basically that window of time that Blaine was in 10 Minute Warning, which is the end of '82 and into sort of the early portion of '83, and some of that. It's a good chronicle, but some of it's kind of a little rough in terms of audio quality. After Blaine left the band, 10 Minute Warning got this guy named Steve Verwolf to be the vocalist, and he was around for the rest of 1983 and through the entirety of 1984. And it was during 1984 that I was the bass player of the band after both Duff and David Griggs left. And why that version of the band never went into the studio and recorded, I don't know. Paul might have some insight. I certainly don't. But when I was in the band,
that later.
Yeah, we can get into that. In 1984, we actually took the time and focused our energy into, booking studio time and actually recorded a full album's worth of material. And at the end of '84, the band pretty much crashed and burned. And my memory might be a little wrong, but I seem to recall that things were actually looking very promising for us prior to the dissolution of the band to actually get released on Slash Records. Maybe Paul may have better memory of that. But
you're right.
Yeah. So after the band broke up, what label wants to sign a band that is no longer around to support the record? So these recordings have just been kind of sitting on dust for a very long time. And I've wanted to put them out on CZ for a very long time. And I don't know, during the pandemic, Jack and Dino, the masters basically resurfaced after our pseudo benefactor Swan actually died, and master tapes made it in Jack and Dino's hands, and he's like, I have a lot of downtime right now, and he's just been doing all of these amazing works of restoration on a lot of historical Seattle recordings, and he reached out to me.
For someone like me who was born in '91, but I love this music for some reason.
Yeah.
And to have an audio record of stuff that I've only read about in years before is just like, it helps paint the picture.
It does.
And Gary Lee Conner, he's a friend of mine, and I've heard the work that Jack's done on his records too recently. And
Jack's been doing just amazing work, and and this record is no exception. I mean,
I agree. I've heard it, and you guys know that I've promoted it on my radio show. It sounds really fresh. It does not sound like it was recorded in '84, and I like it just as much for the difference from the first 10 Minute Warning release. Like, I can see the difference in what you guys were going for, and I see what Duff mentioned in his book, The Hawkwind Meets punk rock kind of Henry Rollins compliment you got.
Yes.
I can kind of see that, and I dig that shit. I actually jokingly told Paul, I'm like, I think Green River maybe ripped you off a little bit. He goes, well, I wrote Rehab Doll. I'm like, oh shit, that's right.
I mean, Stone Gossard has said quite publicly that had it not been for Paul Solger, that he may not have ever ended up playing guitar.
And Duff has said similar sentiments to Paul's importance. And
I talked to Jeff Ament a while ago, and Jeff said exactly the same thing to me. He goes, oh yeah, dude, like that first year or two of Green River, I basically don't think would have existed had it not been for the influence of Paul on Stone's playing. So, I'm just going to throw this out there, but, I feel that, that this band in its couple different iterations basically is the band that is kind of the bridge between like 1982 punk rock, hardcore Seattle, bands like The Living and The Farts. And then what started to happen in 95, which, is that G word that probably, both Paul and I like to avoid, but really this is the band that is kind of the bridge between these two disparate sort of Seattle scenes, like a lot of what 10 Minute Warning is doing and what you hear on this record, This Could Be Heaven, is basically the band is doing something that nobody was doing yet.
I can definitely hear that. I can hear how you guys kind of, if you could say that there's a ground zero for the G word, I would say you guys kind of take the trophy for that. If you would even want that, I mean that in the best of intentions.
I think it's nothing more than admitting as musicians or people who love music, just like anyone, that our earliest influences were not bad. You can't say, oh, Pink Floyd was bad or Led Zeppelin was bad, or just because you're into punk rock. Fuck that shit. There's a lot of cool stuff floating around. No.
Because that's so anti what punk is supposed to be.
Exactly. Kyle, the guy from Solger, singer, he was always just, punk is about, he could boil it down to its essence better than anybody. And I personally was just incorporating a lot of different stuff that I loved as a child, the first records I grew up listening to, and then the punk I loved, and just kind of throw it in a blender and see what came out.
Well, even on We Aren't Living, on the first release, that guitar line you're doing, I can definitely hear a little bit of there's an ambient quality to that,
Yeah, guitar was kind of opening up to me as more than just bar chords and ripping off fast leads. There was I love playing the harmonious melodies and things, and I would sit for hours just kind of playing with stuff and seeing, can this be used in a song? Can there be a beat put behind this? Can this actually be something people would tolerate and watch or listen to? It was very experimental. Daniel got it great. I would say that we're the elusive missing link, other than the bridge, but it's the same thing. It was just, we weren't doing anything new, but we were for the time. You were either doing, punk, new wavy punk, kind of heavy punk rock, or if you dared go out of the spectrum a little bit or grew your hair, you were like, oh, fuck you, well, fuck you. I didn't see the rule book anywhere saying that you had to be X, Y, and Z to be, punk rock.
That or the third.
I
always used to argue with people about the Ramones. I'm like, they had long hair.
I mean, Joey talks about listening to AM hit,
they listen to the Shaggy
Casey Kasem radio and the chick bands and stuff. And they got tired of it, sped it up and made it fun.
Yeah. Well, I disagree with you a little bit, Paul, in a sense.
Okay.
I do think we were doing something new. I don't think we were like creating a new genre or anything like that, but it's sort of like, whenever there's new movements, like we had musical inputs and influences, and obviously we had a bunch of the same ones and we had some of the different ones.
Yeah.
But the amalgamation, it's sort of like the ingredients you put in, and then when comes out the other end is new in a way. I mean,
you're right, because I'm just kind of flashing on the rehearsal times in the basement of Swan's place, and the amount of time we spent on just sections of a song, not just a song. We were working on parts, and how to incorporate a different time signature into, say, a typical 4/4. So yeah, you're right.
I mean, nobody in Seattle sounded anything.
No.
10-minute warning sounded like in 1983 and 1984, and it, I mean, in '83, I was in the audience just marveling at how fantastic it was, and in '84, I still kind of knock on wood sometimes that I got to have that experience, but like nobody was doing what we were doing in that place, and so in that regard, it was kind of new,
Yeah, you're right. When I look at it that way,
yeah,
I mean, the U-Men were definitely a birthday party kind of thing, and they did it great because of John's frontmanship. But 10-minute warning was nothing like them.
No.
And,
but those were my two favorite bands in the scene.
Oh, yeah. I mean, U-Men were my favorite band to go see. Them and IE, the mighty IE, is still together, going strong.
I know.
40-year celebrations this year.
Except for, didn't they pronounce your name something like? It was a symbol. You had to just kind of shriek it.
Yeah,
this is the real lexicon of the G word. So, like, obviously, I can hear how later on Beat Happening and 64 Spiders, actually, Brother James mentioned the U-Men a lot as well as an influence on him.
James, the guy that was in 64 Spiders?
Yeah, and he was in Catbutt, too.
Yeah, I know him.
As James Shaw, yeah.
Yeah. So I can definitely hear how you guys influenced what started happening later. But like you guys, all those bands didn't sound alike to each other.
No.
And so as we're talking about the record and all the influences and your method of going about making the music you did, musically, what did you hear, or when was that, what they call like the flashbulb moment, I guess? Really cheesy, but what made you guys, what band or what record, what made you guys want to be musicians when you were kids?
I kind of want to hear Paul's response first.
Okay.
Well, the first album I ever picked up and sat under the dining room table and listened to was Johnny Cash live at Folsom Prison.
Sweet.
I still carry that to my day. There's something about that man that is my saint of guidance and music. But
not
really, the one that made me want to play guitar was when I found my brother's $1 Billion Babies album.
Nice.
I was Glenn Buxton with a hockey stick.
That's awesome.
So, and that was it, pretty much the beginning.
That kind of opened the door and everything just started flooding through from that point forward.
Yeah, I was the youngest of 5 kids, so I had influences like I was talking about my sister's 70th birthday coming up, and I have her original, I saved everybody's stuff, vinyl. So I'm going to give her back this year her original Janis Joplin Pearl album that she had.
Awesome.
She just got a turntable recently. And so I had a lot of stuff coming in, but my brother Tim was the one that brought the Stooges, the Dolls, Alice Cooper, and all that stuff that just opened that door. Bowie, Iggy, that was where that door came through. And then all the other previous stuff was through the older brothers and sisters, everything from Janis Joplin, Cheech and Chong records to, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd.
That sounds like my record collection, Paul.
Yeah.
It really
just-
does.
Yeah, and I remember Daniel had a hell of a record collection. You turned me on to some great older Pink Floyd I wasn't aware of.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was lucky
Yeah.
to have found Sid Barrett Pink Floyd when I was like 13 when I was learning how to play bass. So that and the first Sex Pistols album was my intro to music.
Oh, wow.
Pink Floyd
That's
is
a great combo.
Pink Floyd
Yeah.
is such a good influence for, I think, bass playing in particular. But I still have
Agreed.
always said if I could play guitar like anybody, I'd probably want to play with like David Gilmour. There's just a certain way that he
Yeah.
phrases things.
Oh,
He's got a
fuck.
soul in the heart of it all that's just like, oh man, it just gets right to my core.
If
One of
I
my
could play
top
like
favorite
David
all-time
Gilmour,
guitars.
I'd need someone like Rick Wright to create those cold, isolating backgrounds that he just layers over so gently and flawlessly.
Right?
though.
Right? Yeah.
That's the problem because you can't have one without the other in that combo. It gives you
Yeah.
chills every time, at least for me.
That's good stuff.
Well, David Gilmour could make one note.
Yeah.
Just penetrate every cell of your body.
Exactly.
That was, I learned it from him and some other people that you can put so much soul into one note and how you bend it, how you put yourself into that note, let alone just ripping off. There's you can rip off 1,000 notes, but does it have anything that moves you? It's technically very good, but
Neil Young is the other person who I felt is always like I forget what song it is, but there's some song where it's the solo is one note that and it's just like, and you're just like, whoa. It's that one note and it's just the rhythm and the phrasing and the way he's playing it. And it's just like, shit, you can do.
And he has his own unique style that you just can't, you can hear it and go, oh God, that's Neil Young. He has that tone, he has that sound.
Some people call Neil Young the father of the G word too. I've seen in small circles. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I think he tried to capitalize on that the time I did see him at the Key Arena when he had Sonic Youth and everybody opening for him. And I did not
think when
think
Kurt
it was a very
died,
good
he
show.
said something about it too.
Yeah.
But who really gives a shit? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There is no, the point is it's kind of like the whole idea of who's the grandfather of this suggests that there's a single source, but really
there's not.
It's sort of like if you think of grunge as a trunk and you actually go up the tree, the further you go, the more branches you find. Like you find more and more influences the further back in time you go.
Absolutely. And that's
And
something
all
I've
good-
been
all
doing
good
for
music
most of my
has
adult
that.
life.
Yeah. It's a great analogy. There's no one person to hang this on or whatever. We were at a really special time in history that, I look back on times where I would love to be, like New York, late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s, or the
Kind of
time
made
of the,
your own though, in your own turf, in your own time though. So that's
we
much
did.
respect.
Looking back on it, I go, because there's really nothing quite like it. And the only thing I can say was close in Seattle or Pacific Northwest would have been the garage band time with, the Kingsmen, the Sonics, and
Yeah,
the
some
scene
great
that was
stuff
happening
from that
then.
era too.
Yeah.
People don't remember too much anymore.
No, that's definitely one of the roots of that tree.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But then you've got the Detroit bands, MC5 Stages, then you've got some of the more obscure kind of heavy psych bands from about that same period, bands like Captain Beyond, which a lot of people don't know. And
God, I've got this record, Daniel, by this. It's called like Cynthia's on Meth, and it's a Detroit band from the early 60s. And I only have it on digital when I was going through like music blogs. I'll have to dig it out. This was like the most obscurest Detroit. I don't know who. I would love to know more about it. It's something I need to research.
Other bands also like, I don't know, Blue Cheer.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
Sir Lord Baltimore.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
fucking amazing stuff that came before all of it, and may or may not have been an influence to certain people, not to a whole scene, but to certain people.
Yeah, because Bobby Liebling from Pentagram's a friend of mine, and he's mentioned Sir Lord Baltimore and stuff like that so much.
It's an amazing record.
Yeah,
it really is.
It really is. You know, people just don't dig too much these days, but that's part of why I do what I do. You know,
right.
Spoon feed it to them, I guess.
Yeah, we got to have curators of this stuff and keep, like an oral history, you know, you got to keep the foundation, the roots, and everything else of it alive. And
so,
you know,
Paul,
cheers for doing it.
The next thing I have is specifically towards Paul because I have to ask. The farts, 10-minute warnings, origins, and Solger. Can you go into that for our listeners? I'm not going to make a big deal out of the one famous guy, but it's worth mentioning for the history. Just go into how you went from Solger, farts, 10-minute warning, the early days, and then how you and Daniel and Verwolf hooked up.
Kyle and I, really briefly, Kyle and I met through an ad in a local paper, and we started the band, and we worked at the Showbox together and rehearsed there. It was a very short band. And then in between that, I was in a band with a bunch of people called the Fags that got dubbed by somebody who introduced us the first show. The singer, Chuck, was a notorious gay person, but he was a wild little guy. And then Tommy had quit the Farts. I'd seen them a couple times, and Steve was going out with the bassist of the Fags, Jane. And she called me up, and they were living together. So I came over, he gave me 16 songs. I learned them in one night and went back the next day, and he goes, oh, shit. Yeah, you got it. And so I did that, and things were falling apart on a big California tour for us. Loud was not happy, the drummer. Yeah. And when we got back, I said, well, Duff, you know, you can play drums. You played with the Fastbacks. Would you come and fill in with these shows we got? And we have a recording session. And so it went that way for a few months. And then I knew Duff played guitar. So we were sitting around playing a lot of guitars together. And he goes, hey, I know this guy that was in my last band, the drummer. Let's go in and rehearse and try and see what that sounds like. So it was all just kind of who knew who. And
let's actually mention that last band that Duff was referring to was The Living.
Living, yeah. He was in The Living with Greg Gilmore and Todd, who was in Silly Killers also.
Because wasn't he in the Fastbacks when he was like 16 or something like that? Yeah,
he's on the very first single.
Okay.
Duff is. And he was in The Veins prior to The Living, which was with Chris Udding and Johnny Vinyl, who was in IE. And it's a great single. It is a classic Seattle single of punk rock early days. And so Duff switched to guitar, and Blaine was still on vocals. And just with that addition of guitar, and we tried out some different bass players. Alex Maggotbrain, who's in the Q's now as the guitarist, tried out on bass, and we settled on David Griggs because he looked cool, and he had a Ventures Mosrite bass. And so that's when the other musical influences started coming in. I don't think Blaine was cool with it because we were wanting him to sing out of his range.
Gotcha.
And so
I was just curious because I have heard Blaine's side, so I needed your side of certain things.
I mean,
you know?
It was kind of messy, and looking back on it, Blaine he's the ultimate front man. I call him the Tasmanian devil of lovingly, as because he can hold the crowd's attention like nobody else. Just his childlike cyclone presence on stage is like nobody else.
I think the Tasmanian devil is a perfect description.
I agree. Watching the old clips, like the live footage from La Bamba's in '83, and just even him still now and his Wicker Bar videos I watch with my wife, we just laugh because it's like, this guy's so awesome because he just, he's great. He's a character.
He is.
But it's
I
natural.
am really
It's not
picky about
forced.
front people, and they got to have something, to really get my attention. If their voice doesn't carry the day, then they got to be able to capture a crowd.
Yeah.
And he does it. And he
Oh, yeah.
just has been consistently doing it through decades. So I can't say enough about the guy.
Yeah.
Why
But you guys
we
were
switched.
still like in your early 20s at this time. So for it to be
Oh.
messy is no surprise.
Yeah.
Emotional immaturity at that age,
Yeah. So anyway, Steve comes along. I'd known Steve. He hadn't really sang in any bands, and that kind of shows a lot on if you could hear what this recording originally sounded like before it was fixed up and Steve redid some vocals. It was pretty cringy. But I'm extremely happy with what Jack did to it. It honors Steve. That's my favorite thing about it.
Mhm.
And it does honor Swan too. And the band.
Technically, vocally wise, if you're listening to this kind of music for like excellent, perfect vocals, you came to the wrong place to begin with.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's not to denigrate anybody at all, because the talent, I love this music because of that. You know what I mean? Like that, unpolished, just let's go for it. It's not there's no pretense.
Speaking about something I find interesting about listening to this record, and it's been so many years now that I can listen to it and kind of forget that, oh yeah, that's me on bass, right? But like when I listen to Steve, I feel like something about his vocal delivery, it's almost like you can get a sense of his swagger and what he brought to the stage. Like his persona was kind of larger than life,
I kind of picture like an eerie punk rock Jim Morrison type of character in the mysterious way, sort of.
Yeah, it's exactly what he was. It's what he was. Like
he's very. Go ahead. No, I agree. He was like when we said Blaine was not the most technically great sounding vocalist. He had that essence on stage. And I would add another thing about Steve was he wrote brilliant lyrics.
I'll definitely say that. I freaking love Necropolitan Affair. I don't know what it is about that song.
Well, just the title, I had to go look up the word to see what it meant. When you got to make me go home and look up words, I know I got somebody good I'm working with.
Well, then the Jim Morrison comparison isn't off base.
No, it's not. No, not at all.
Steve had a charisma like few people I've ever known.
Yeah.
And a lot of time that charisma was a fairly dark charisma, but it was kind of hard. Like when he was up there, it was hard not to, he kind of commanded and demanded your attention when he was on stage.
Yeah.
So you're using was and past tense. So forgive my ignorance. So I take it he's no longer with us.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Well, I was using was because that was like 30 some odd years ago.
Okay, fair enough.
But also yes, he did die quite a few years ago.
Okay, and like I said, forgive my ignorance. I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
So that makes it even more special that you're able to finally get this out.
Yeah, that's what I meant in my reference to being a beautiful tribute to him. Because his wife is still around.
Okay.
And it's I love that dark analogy because it made me think of that Black Flag show, Daniel. I don't know if you were playing bass by then or not, but
that was 83. The Black Flag show was 83.
Yeah, and he had those bags full of dead flowers that he found at garbage bags full of dead flowers from a florist, yeah, thank you. And he was just throwing those out into the audience, and people just loved it, man. I think he was painted silver too that night. It was crazy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those pictures with him. I mean, we're talking silver. We're talking head to toe metallic silver.
Yeah, metallic silver paint, covered, and no shoes on. I think he just had shorts.
It was intense.
head to toe. It was wild.
Wow,
I just saw one of these photos, and it was that Charles Peterson.
yeah.
And Rick Friel from, you know who he is, don't you, Daniel?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he was up at Easy Street Records in West Seattle and showed me this picture that he took of it on the wall of a show with us at the Metropolis. And I'm like on the ground. I think I'm doing something with a slide bottleneck or something.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom it says Paul Solger Metropolis, $1,000. And I'm like, what? What? Really?
Mr. Solger, if you get a print of that for Charles Peterson, can I have a signed copy, sir?
I already talked to him and he's sending me a full-size print.
Sweet.
Copy.
I love that photo. That's the one with the, and in the foreground, there's just like a hand with a smoking cigarette.
Yeah. And I hate photos of myself, but that one I like because I can tell I was really lost in the soul in the moment.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
music.
That's what I love about it.
I was completely unaware of everything going on around me. I was just my guitar, my hands, the music. It had taken me to that different place that only music can take you to.
And that photo definitely kind of captured that moment.
Yeah.
Really special.
Absolutely brilliant. It just,
I will gladly pay you for a signed print of that, my friend.
I can probably make one up
sweet
off the one he gives me. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I
mean,
I respect him for being so quick to respond and getting me one of those.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he comes across as a pretty decent guy who doesn't think he did anything special or anything from all the interviews I've seen anyway.
That's the feeling I got.
Charles,
People were saying you should get a cut of the money, but everybody's an artist, and being a photographer is worse than being a musician sometimes. Unless
Charles is very down to earth. He's a great dude.
Yeah,
he has
that's
a lot
what
of.
I mean.
I mean, he understands his place in the scene because more than anybody else taking pictures during those years.
His are iconic.
Yeah, his pictures are very iconic, but he's still he's very humble and down to earth about everything. I mean, I've known Charles. It's kind of funny. Charles is the one who turned me on to a whole bunch of bands, but one of them was, I remember he was the guy that turned me on to The Birthday Party.
Nice.
Oh, really?
And it was early on, like my brain wasn't quite ready for it yet.
Yeah.
And I just remember going, what the fuck is this shit? This sounds horrible. Oh my God.
That's how the throat ups were for my first listen at 13, but there was some earworm that made me keep listening to it. The more I listened to it, the more I got it.
A year after hating it so sort of violently, I was like a year later, I was completely and utterly obsessed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you pulled out one of the earlier albums when I was at your house one time, Daniel, that I hadn't heard yet. It was
Birthday Party.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's which album was it? It wasn't the one with Big Jesus Trash Can. And
Mutiny?
It was a little more, huh?
Is it Mutiny?
Well, I had Mutiny, the EP, and I hadn't heard a lot of the early stuff yet, and I heard Release That.
I wonder if it was The Boys Next Door.
Yeah, is there like a key song in there?
Well, that was their previous name, is the Boys Next Door.
Yeah, it was really early, and it had a different kind of, you could tell it was a birthday party, but it was slightly, not quite there yet to what they
maybe Hee Haw was a pretty early one.
That could have been it. That rings more of a bell.
That's like 1980. Yeah. Curious stuff.
Oh yeah. No, you would go. I remember your place up on like Madison, off Madison, and you go in there. You had your records in like a side closet in the hallway or something. You'd come out with these
utility closet,
vinyl and show it to me, and relics too. I remember. I wasn't really familiar with all that yet. I'd heard all the Wall and Dark Side of the Moon and all that crap.
But Relics was where the Nile song came from.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's yeah.
Well, I think Relics was a compilation except for Biding My Time. I'm pretty sure the Nile song was on the More album, but that might not have been available in the US as readily as it is now.
Right. We'll have to look it up. You're probably right.
What
Yeah,
a fucking great
'cause,
song.
It is, and it's been covered by you guys, by the Melvins, by so many different people.
Oh,
The
really?
Obscured by Clouds record has a really good song by them that has them doing like typical hard boogie rock. The Gold, it's in the I think it's called or something like that. It's bizarre to hear David Gilmour singing like this upbeat rock and roll song. It's bizarre.
Scared by Clouds was my entry point for Pink Floyd.
Oh,
And then-
wow.
And then Metal after that.
Metal's great. Echoes, man, and
Yeah.
Sisyphus.
Yeah.
And one of these days, that bass in the beginning, oh, when I was first learning how to play bass, that was a fun one.
I
Synchronized,
think Animals was
synchronized
mine.
delay.
Animals, my mom has always championed that album. And
I
I
love
see
it.
why now.
It may be my favorite record by them, Animals.
Yeah,
I
would
have to say
chime in
Piper's
with
my
the same.
personal favorite to this day.
Which one?
Piper
Piper.
at the Gates of Dawn,
Yep.
the very first one. Pretty
There's
good.
something
okay.
about Sid Barrett that I've always, even since I was a kid, and it's not just the sad story, it's just his music was really unique. And I think because there's not really that much of it out there, I think that's also
Yes.
why I got drawn to it so much. But I I prefer the psychedelic rock a little bit more than I prefer prog, just as a preference. So that might play into it as well.
Makes sense. I love it all. I do love it all.
Yeah, me too. I'm just saying, when it comes to picking favorites, I put all of that into mind, you know?
It's funny though that we're talking about Pink Floyd as if they were like a primary influence on 10 Minute Warning, and
Yeah.
they were probably a very secondary influence, just kind of little bits
Was
of
the
little
primary
bits
on
here and
it.
there, little nooks and crannies, but you know.
Oh well.
What
Oh,
was
well.
the
Just all
primary
good music.
influence?
Huh?
What was the primary influence for 10 Minute Warning then?
I don't think there was a primary influence.
No, I can't think of a single thing that was.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe Stooges, perhaps.
Nah.
But it's, here's the thing about a band of different people. Everybody brings different influences in,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
It almost sounds like a totally different band from the one you hear on the first record, and it kind of is.
I will suggest, and maybe incorrectly, that maybe Paul had a big Johnny Thunders influence.
Yes.
Oh, fuck yeah. That's where I learned how to play guitar.
Yeah, where do you think my name comes from?
But Johnny Thunders had zero influence on me.
Yeah. No.
Interesting.
And zero influence on 10 Minute Warning, I would say.
Right.
Other than occasionally
I don't
play
know.
something that sound like it.
I wouldn't say the Dolls, but that opening riff and that kind of sounded
Yeah.
Thunders like.
Well, I was going to
Metropolitan.
say, yeah, besides a few obvious riffs that I ripped off. How
There's
could you
things I
not,
can
being
catch,
16 years old, 15 years old, and literally learning guitar from Angus Young and Johnny Thunders? That's the records I learned from.
I played bass along to Roger Waters and whoever played on Nevermind the Bollocks, because I know it wasn't Sid.
That was Glenn.
Yeah.
Glenn Matlock. He gave me
I thought it was Steve.
Huh?
I thought it was Steve who did the bass on the studio track, because Sid had hepatitis.
No, that was Glenn Matlock. Because he was the original bass player and wrote a lot of the songs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And was
that was a big
guy.
shock. Like Sid
yeah.
gets all the historical, like whatever cred, but he was really useless.
Yeah,
That's
he
what
was.
growing up is. When I realized I could play bass better than the guy who was listed on the record, that was an eye opener.
I mean, better than the guy who couldn't really play.
Yeah, I've got the Winterland concert on DVD, and I show it to all aspiring bass players. I'm like, this is the legendary Sid Vicious and how much he really couldn't play. And they're just like, I feel better about myself. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, bands are strange animals.
Yeah, they are.
They're all a little different.
But you guys definitely were unique, especially for the time. Like 84, you guys didn't sound like anybody else.
No, which is why.
Is that really almost 40 years gone now?
37 years ago, dude.
Man, I put 30 years first.
7 years older than me, man.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
I mean,
it's funny because when people ask me, how old are you? I'm like, well, I'm almost exactly a month older than Nevermind.
When I first talked to you, like texting and stuff, and I think I was talking, who else was it? Blaine. I was under the impression you were our age, and so was Blaine. And when we found out how young you were, we were like, Jesus Christ, what's he living in the past or what? But
Bobby Liebling says I have an old soul because he's much older than you gents, and he calls me brother.
All right. No, I think it's really beautiful that you're into it so much and that you're keeping this music alive, not just ours, but
well,
so
like
many
I told
others.
Gary Lee Conner, you know, I was one of those kids where I loved music. So like when I found out, like, okay, so Alice in Chains, Nirvana, I liked them. Oh, there's this G word. What's that all about? And it was the early days of the internet and stuff. So I had to do a lot of library stuff. And then in the early days of downloading music, it was a godsend because I had the Sub Pop 10-minute warning record. I had stuff by The Accused. I had stuff by the 64 Spiders and Cat Butt, and I had no idea that you guys all existed as one at one time or another in some way, shape, or form.
It was,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a magical moment, that era in Seattle.
I found Gnome on YouTube, you know, of like 2015, the video for On the House. I'm like, I really like this. So I sought out the album and I could only get it on CD from Germany and it cost me a fortune.
Oh, you could have called me. I would have sent you one for the cost of shipping.
Well, I didn't know you back then. I was still getting my feet wet in journalism. I was only about 5 years in at that point.
That was a band that, I don't know. I had much higher hopes for that band. They never really caught on, which is too bad.
They should have, because they were really, really good.
Well,
I love that record. I bought a bootleg shirt from eBay, and actually David Bond asked me the other week, hey, can you send me that eBay link that you got the Gnome shirt from? Because my son's wearing the original, and it's getting more.
Oh, nice, nice. Well, you know, I mean, the fact is, you know, any musical scene will have, you know, whatever. It's
especially with the mainstream media involvement. That's a
or even under, but there's so many great bands and scenes that just never catch the attention of people at the time and just kind of float off into obscurity, you know?
Yeah. I wonder if that's what's going to happen to the doom stoner scene I've been avidly following for 20 years or so.
Well, there's like another, you know, 200 bands you've never heard of, and some will stick and some won't. And
especially nowadays, it's twice as much.
Yeah. I was just going to say that there's how many million bands out there around the world that are doing amazing stuff, yet we have no idea what their name is or what they sound like.
Like Paul, were you aware of I Hate God before I told you that their singer was a huge fan and wanted to talk to you?
No. I mean, just like it's through personal
he was a big fan of Solger too.
Nice, really?
Things.
I know those guys.
So that's why I got him in touch with you, because I'm good friends with him. I talk to him a lot, and they've been around since 1988. So they're just sort of now getting some exposure because of the advent of the internet. Pentagram's been around since 71, and they're going to South America for the first time in 2022, I think.
Have you seen the Pentagram documentary?
Yeah, I have it. I'm friends with the guy. I watched it 2 weeks after I met him, and it was not the same guy, and it made me cry. So he's come a long way, and I'm glad he's doing well.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart. And I hate to say that about someone who fronts an evil sounding band like Pentagram, but he really is. You know, and that's part of why I love what I do. You know, it's all about the music, and you guys are just great with telling just stories and going back and forth. I'm picturing it all in my head, like, you know.
Well,
does it really rain as much in Seattle as it's over dramatized, guys? Can I ask that?
It has its moments.
Okay, I know you're getting ready for rain season, aren't you?
What was the question? I missed it.
Does it
Does
really
it really
rain as
rain in
much in
Seattle as
Seattle?
much as it's like talked about or joked about, I guess?
I have an answer to that, even though I haven't lived there now for
Yeah.
18 years. My answer is that it's overcast as much as everybody thinks it rains.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's gray all the time. It's not necessarily raining that whole time, but man, sometimes it just feels like it is.
Yeah, like you get into late, like February, March, April, and you've already went through the winter, and it's still just pissing buckets every day. You kind of are waiting for the nice first spring day,
Yeah.
Yeah, those are 3 great months.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
But
I live in
I gotta
upstate New
say,
York. Our winters are terrible. So I'd
yeah,
take the rain over the snow we
well,
get.
I don't think most people realize that London and places like that are further north than Seattle is on the globe.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
get more rain in Germany and places like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a lot of friends over there. A lot of the underground metal I get comes from a lot of Eastern Europe too.
Yeah, I've made friends with a couple.
If you
people
guys are
through
ever
Facebook.
curious, because I know your musical palettes are so diverse, both of you, just go onto YouTube and type in Funeral Doom and see what you
Funeral
think
Doom?
of that.
Is that
Okay.
is that a genre or a band?
It's a genre, a subgenre of a subgenre of a subgenre. You know how the labels work? There's
Yeah.
traditional doom, stoner doom, sludge like Melvin's, and some people consider Alice in Chains, and I Hate God and stuff like that. And then you've got
Sounds
the
very upbeat.
stoner, blah blah blah.
Is it cheery music?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no.
Well,
I guess it
16
depends
beats
on
per
what makes you
minute.
happy.
Some
Yeah, there you
songs
go.
are 16 to 32 beats per minute is the rough speed of these songs.
Maybe that makes some people just jump for joy. I'm not
I
going to
find
judge
it
them.
relaxing.
Yeah.
But it's one step away from being shoegaze, basically.
I don't even know what that is.
I like shoegaze.
So are you a fan of like Sun and stuff like that, Daniel?
I have a very complicated relationship with Greg Anderson.
Okay, fair enough.
And so I'm just going to avoid answering that question.
Okay, fair
But the
comment.
relationship is such that I kind of can't really go there and be open to it separate from him.
Okay.
But I have a
Are you
feeling
into Earth and stuff like that, or music
yeah,
like
there's
that?
a
Then?
lot of that stuff. I mean, I have to be in the right mood for that kind
Yeah.
of just heavy, it's not an everyday kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, when I'm in the right mood, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the early Swan stuff.
Okay, yeah.
They're like some of the heaviest shit ever known to man. But like, it's not something that I can put on every morning with my tea. Like,
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I love me some old school crust punk, but I can't always listen to it.
Exactly.
Like, I got a signed EP from Doom, and I've loved them since I was a teenager. They're British. And I'm like, this is so weird. I have a signed crust punk album.
Well, it would be boring if you listen to the same thing over and over again, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
I think so.
I like to go from obscure old jazz like Thelonious Monk to
Oh,
the
yeah.
Dead Kennedys and back again. And
I
all
love
around the globe.
Leadbelly and Robert Johnson and all those old folk blues guys and all the old
Yeah.
folkies too. Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie. I
Yeah.
love all that stuff as much as I love, like I Hate God and St. Vitus and you guys and just that list alone.
I think the beauty of music is it doesn't even matter how old you might live to, that it is truly endless in terms of discovery. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you spend your whole life discovering new music every week and being blown away by new music every week. I mean, if you're hungry enough and you're pursuing it enough,
Yeah,
you'll constantly find
you don't even have to put a huge amount of effort into it. Just be open to it. And you'll discover things that you never knew even existed and just go,
Yeah.
oh my God, This is
Yeah.
incredible.
People don't realize they don't have to be like me and go all in like I do. But some
Yeah.
people, I don't think it's a choice. I think it chooses them. You know,
Mhm.
I don't think it's something like this is just what I do. I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't do, something involving music with my life,
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine life without music being one of the
Exactly.
critical.
I wouldn't be here anymore if there wasn't music.
Same here,
Put it that
man.
way.
I would have off myself years ago.
I think I would have
What a-
killed myself without music. It's saved my life more than once.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Cheers to that. That's a big one.
I've always said that it's the friend that's always been there for me when everybody else leaves.
Uh-huh.
And it really is.
I mean, I never thought I'd play music again in a band. And this past year during the pandemic and I've written more songs and songs I like which is a surprise. But I have written more than all the bands combined previously.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah, there's a backlog of about 35 to 40 songs. The band I could
that
stop
why
writing
our project's
tomorrow.
on hold?
What?
Is that why it's kind of slow going for our project?
A bit, yeah. We're
It's
trying to get
fair.
our first
I'm
rehearsals
patient.
in. We're trying
When's
to
the
get our
box?
first rehearsal. Huh?
When's the box set coming out?
That's
Yeah,
what
I
wanna
keep
know,
I keep
too.
joking to the drummer going, he goes, because he does multiple takes and he goes, oh, no one's ever going to hear this. And I joke to him and go, yeah, wait 10, 20 years when the big deluxe 7-disc box set comes out.
Straight.
No,
Hey, don't joke about that. I'll still be around and I'll put out our recordings together with it or something. If Daniel's
Yeah.
still around, I'll be like, hey, what do I do with this stuff?
I won't be around. I won't be around.
I just figure, there's so much terrible things and negative stuff. If you want to dwell on it, cool. But, I was telling Pete, the drummer, it's like, yeah, I see, that things aren't so great, but, I'm not going to dwell on that. Let's just take the fact that we can still play. So let's just play. And the best thing we can do is give people an hour and a half of just forgetting about all this shit and having a good time, and to me, that's what music serves as one incredible purpose, is the live experience.
Absolutely.
Like a good movie draws you in and makes you forget about all the other shit in the world or you're going on in your life.
It's almost a spiritual healing, if I can.
Oh, it
use
is.
that
It's
term.
completely.
Like,
I was thinking this morning.
It's almost
about,
like modern day shamanism to be a musician or something,
I'm
like
a
this
Taoist.
being a DJ, people tune into my radio show every week, every single day, and they're like, it goes by so quick. I love it. It's like something they look forward to. And I'm just like, okay, I just do what I do. But it feels great just to do that.
The best thing about that station is that you don't turn on the app or go to it and there's all this shit to choose from. It's just whatever's on, you listen to or you don't.
Yeah. And
I like that because when you have all these like choices, like so many podcasts or so many different radio stations like Sirius XFM or whatever that is, which has some great ones, but I just like that fact that you're like a regular radio station. You turn on that dial, you tune it in, and then you just listen to whoever's doing your DJ.
And the one compliment I've gotten to from a lot of people is that nobody else does a show like mine. But I just went in it with what kind of a radio show would I want to listen to?
Yeah.
And went from there. And I didn't have any intentions of it blowing up like it has. During my last 2 hours of work tonight, I'll be live on Hard Rock Hell Radio based in the UK.
I was just going to ask you that. Is that tonight is the first night?
Yeah, it's from 10 to noon over in UK time. And in my time, that's from 5 to 7 in the morning.
Okay.
So I got a question.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, as part of this interview, will you be cutting in any music from the record also?
Well,
you've already done that?
I have not done that. my co-host, who's usually on with us, but we do video separately like this too. He does all the technical stuff. If
Okay.
you want to set, if you can make a clip and you want me and some photos to put in the clip to kind of like, it's like an intro,
Right.
that would probably work the best. So he could just put that in and then have the video start. Because he has started putting live videos he shot at gigs and stuff as like,
It'd just be cool. I mean, I don't know if the people that are tuning in, listening to us, already know the music or
well, I
or
played
maybe
it on my radio show, so like there might be a select few, but for like the mass YouTube audience is totally separate. So
or maybe I can just throw this out, to the people listening. They will be able to download the music digitally, but for the hardcore aficionados who want to own a piece of vinyl,
that's me.
that's you and many others, this record is it's being pressed in a limited edition of 1,000 copies, half on black vinyl and half going to be on colored vinyl. They're all 180 gram vinyl.
Nice.
And people can get it on Bandcamp, and if they want to just check it out, it's 10-minute warning, 10, the numeral 10, not spelled out, but 10-minute warning .bandcamp.com. They can order vinyl there. They can order it digitally, and right now there's 4 songs that they can listen to without buying anything, just to check it out. So
nice. Yeah, I'll put the link to that in the description.
that'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
You just got 4
guests.
You just got 4 pre-orders, I think, are coming from my sisters and brothers. They all want copies of vinyl.
Yeah.
Love that.
I already have mine in the bag. I've already done that. As soon as I heard about it, I'm like, must have.
I had a friend that was a friend of my brother's I've known since I was a little kid. And I said, he saw the band from the very beginning to the very end. And he's up in, I don't know where he is now, but anyway, Doc, I go, yeah. He got Stooge, I think, on the first that was available digitally. Is that right, Daniel?
It is available. Yeah, you can buy it as an individual track.
Okay, then I said to him, I've got it here. I can send you the whole thing. And he goes, no, I want to buy the actual thing. And I was like, okay, well, thank you. Somebody I've known for almost 45 years.
Wow.
Well, shit, I bought this off of just remembering that, I had you in my digital music collection. And as soon as I saw it, I didn't even know I was talking to Blaine when I messaged that page for it. Even then, I didn't know I was talking to Blaine.
Yeah, no, that should be a good interview with Blaine. I'm curious to see it.
Yeah, I am taping that on Wednesday because we're taping this on Halloween as we speak. So, real quick, what exactly broke you guys up, and what did you guys do afterwards in between?
Daniel?
I was going to say.
I can take this one.
I was going to say Paul.
Yeah. I was strung out on heroin probably and other sources of stuff. And afterwards, I did nothing. Everything decayed. And then I went and I got clean and sober and then gradually worked my way back up playing again. So,
and I'll take this further. You were strung out, but so was Steve, both of you.
Oh yeah. And our benefactor was a big cocaine dealer. So this whole album was recorded with a lot of cocaine floating around. So those were the days when that shit happened,
Yeah.
And
it just became, I don't know. When you have people strung out trying to do something that, being in a band seriously requires a fair bit of focus. And when you're strung out and coming in like really high, it's hard to have the kind of focus you need, either in practice or in the studio or live.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that you mentioned, the Slash records that we were really kind of, because there were no real independent labels back then. Slash was probably the biggest or well known.
Yeah.
I think 10AD or one of those was around too or something like that. And I remember being in the basement when we got the letter saying no, and that was a bummer. And of course, I should never have slept with Steve's girlfriend in the practice room.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it's, she said, don't tell him. Then she turns around to get his coat one day and tells him. So, that didn't help.
Is this Lisa?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. After practice one day, I guess. I kind of remember it. But just that all culminated.
We were all young, dumb, and full of cum.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll answer the question. So Paul answered the most delicate part that, some people may or may not want to talk about, but that's the honest truth. I mean, it was what was going on. For me, it was a real issue primarily because when I grew up, my mom had gotten strung out on heroin when I was pretty young, and it was just the two of us. So I was all too aware of the dynamics of heroin, and I was sitting here just going, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, I got away from all of this as a child. Here I am in this band I'm so excited to be in, and now I'm sort of dealing with this shit again. And I wasn't really, I didn't have a good sense of sort of how to deal with it or how to just roll with it. And eventually the whole thing just kind of fell apart. Like I think the energy is just sort of, it just dissipated, and everybody kind of went.
It really got to be when we were rehearsing in Swan's basement, more of like, okay, we're rehearsing, but my mind was more on the fact of being able to go upstairs afterwards and wait for him to pull the cocaine out.
Right.
So, if that's not being into music, that's something else that's taken over your interest.
Now, for me, after the decline of 10 Minute Warning, I was in a band pretty much right away.
Yeah.
And that was the band Skin Yard.
Yeah, and you really pulled some amazing stuff together. Did the label.
Absolutely.
Very active in the music
Yeah,
scene.
I have to, and I'm sorry if this is a vote of contention, but are you ever going to do another re-release of Deep Six?
It is not mine to release.
Okay.
The CZ Records sold Deep Six to A&M Records at a period when Soundgarden was just starting to break, and Susan Silver was managing the band at the time, and she was friends with us as well, and it was still a really tiny, tight little scene.
Yeah, Gary talks about that with Nirvana and Alice in Chains and stuff. Like, even though they were the lower on the totem pole, they weren't treated any differently.
But basically, A&M wanted to sort of gain control or secure any and all, as many old Soundgarden recordings as they could. And I think they communicated with Susan like they were going to basically either shut that down or take it away or something. And, I think Susan, because the Deep Six contracts were like pretty shitty at best. They weren't written with any legal knowledge. And so she basically worked a deal out where she got A&M to agree to buy them for a substantial chunk of money. So that, I didn't get fucked. The other bands didn't get fucked. And so they gave CZ Records a big chunk of money, and then the label took half the money, and then the other half of the money got split up between all the bands, depending on how many songs. So they own it. I'm guessing they probably don't even know that they own it anymore, but that way, they got to, all they really cared about was that they owned those Soundgarden recordings.
Gotta love major labels, huh?
But in the contract, we forced them to put out a CD.
Okay.
So they did.
Have any of those left?
Oh God, no. No, I only got a handful of them in the first place because again, it was A&M. Me.
Yeah.
I have some of the vinyl left, but not much, and I sell them for stupid amounts of money when I do sell one. So.
Fair enough. Way out of my price range.
Last one I sold was $385.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife will kill me.
But so after that, basically 10 Minute Warning kind of broke up in September, and I think we played a final reunion show in December. And starting that next month, January, I started playing with Jack and Dino in what eventually became Skin Yard. And
Another incredible band.
that band was active from 85 to 91. And we put out 4 studio records during that time. There was another studio record that came out about a year and a half, 2 years after the band played their last show. So it came out, you see a lot of bios that say the band was around until 93, but it really wasn't.
Yeah.
And during that time I was, I basically took over CZ Records and put out a ton of records, and I still own CZ Records. And in fact, this 10-minute warning record is the first physical release I've put out in literally 20 years.
That's awesome. It makes me proud to wear my Gnome Six Eye Surprise Tower shirt that has on CZ Records on the back.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that's a bootleg. I think that might be the real deal.
I got it from Japan.
Yeah. Well, who knows? We'll see.
He's going to show it to you.
Go get it. No, I think that's the real deal. I think that's an original.
Yeah, it looks original
Printed
to
on
me.
Gildan, made in Bangladesh.
Okay, never mind.
Oh, okay.
At least it's
Somebody
the
got the
accurate
artwork.
print. At least it's the accurate print.
If it's made in Bangladesh, it's not an original.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I didn't know you were hanging
The
out
tag
in
says
Bangladesh.
Gildan.
Okay, it's cool that you have it. It's cool that you like the band.
Yeah, I like a lot, like Skin Yard. I love, I love all that stuff from the early to the later on. That big G word.
And then the other, I did also do one record with Helios Creed.
Nice.
And he gets most of the credit for writing it, but I pretty much wrote almost the entire record. And that was kind of fun because we actually wrote, rehearsed, and recorded the entire record in the studio in 3 days.
Awesome.
Wow.
And
They don't make records like that anymore, man.
yeah, that was the first Helios record that came out on Amphetamine Reptile. It's called The Last Laugh. I still enjoy it. I think it's a really cool musical thing that we did.
That is awesome.
I chose to not continue with the band because I didn't want to tour with Helios because he's an odd character, and I knew the tour would be really kind of difficult on a good day, so I kind of passed.
Yeah.
But it was still really gratifying, to do that record. I mean,
Fair enough.
I gotta say, I feel really fortunate, and I feel really proud of everything I've been involved with musically. I mean,
yeah, you should be.
This 10-minute warning record to finally come out, I'm so psyched for it because I think it's a great record,
Yeah.
I agree with that sentiment.
And
I'm not being biased. I had never heard that material before, and it's amazing. I love it.
Good. Skin Yard was good. The Helios Creed record is good. And the fun thing to be able to sort of announce here is that I'm probably getting ready to start my first band in literally 30 years.
Awesome. Keep me posted and send me anything. I'll definitely give you the promo you deserve, man.
Well, it's me, and I don't know if you know the name Jason Blackmore, but he was in a band in the 90s called Molly McGuire. They were out of Kansas City. I think a lot of people avoided the band because they didn't really get a vibe from the name. But if you also go to Molly McGuire .bandcamp.com, they self-released a third record, something like, I think in 2014, 8 years after the band had called it quits, but they put out this record. It's called Molly 3, and goddamn, it is just so good. So Jason's this amazing guitar player. He's become a really close friend of mine here in San Diego, and we're also in talks right now with a company that may be helping us to launch a music podcast as well.
Nice. I'll be looking forward to that as well, man.
And we're gonna have all kinds. We've already had yeses from about half a dozen different people that are down with having talks with us. So
that's awesome.
I think it's going to be a pretty fruitful friendship and partnership, and creatively. And it's kind of weird to take off 30 years, but
but isn't it a great feeling, Daniel?
It's an amazing feeling. And
I had kind of given up any idea of doing it again, but this past year has just been probably one of my happiest.
That's awesome to hear, guys.
And have this record come out and sound so damn good. I don't have the luxury of Daniel's had of having good quality records out, you know. Solger.
Yeah.
And the farts were done on shoestring budgets and really quick. And this is, other than the Mark Lanigan involvement, this is the best full album I've been on, quality sounding wise, and everything.
We have Jack and Dino to thank for a good chunk of that.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, which I do at every mention of this record, that if it weren't for him, it would still be in the cringy bucket of my cassette tapes.
No, it's solid. It's really solid.
He is such a legend. I would love to meet and talk with him sometime, but I respect people's privacy in that. So.
Oh, he talks.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure he
I'll
would.
pass my name along to him.
Don't sell yourself short.
Well, pass my name along to him then.
All right.
I'll get him this link. One of us will get him this link, and he can kind of meet you through this, and then
awesome.
you can approach him.
Because
Jack is a sweetheart.
If anything, I hope I come across as genuine and just, you know, because that's how I am. I love your guys' music. You know, I didn't even know Dan was a member of the band until you mentioned it, Paul. Honestly, I didn't. You know, I knew what Daniel did in Skin Yard, and I knew what he did in, you know, CZ Records, but I had no idea that he was involved in this too. So
it's all right. I didn't either. I forgot. No,
keep in the cobwebs of your mind 30 years ago. I think I was in a dingy basement with some guy named Solger.
I've been wanting this record to come out for the last couple of decades, so it's pretty awesome that it finally got to happen, you know. And then Greg said, "Yeah, fuck it, let's do it," you know.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I, for one, am glad.
Yeah.
I hope Greg hears it soon. And
I sent him I sent him a test pressing.
Okay, good.
Nice.
He's heard it. I asked I asked Greg, I'm like, "So what'd you think?" And he goes, "Sounds like a record." I'm like, "Yeah."
Okay, Greg, that's about as best we're gonna get.
Greg is definitely a man of very few words.
Yeah.
And that's a case in point.
Speaks with those sticks of his.
Yeah, but you know, I also think that this is a record of some of the, you know, the thing about 10 Minute Warning in 1984 and 85, there was nobody anywhere that played drums the way Greg did.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You know how many drummers did he spawn?
Just jaw dropping. And the thing is, this record actually captures what he was doing.
It does, regardless of what he may think. He may find sound flaws here and there, but Jesus Christ, some of that. I was playing air drums along with the first CD pressing you sent me.
Yeah.
Because it was just so frenetically wonderful to listen to, and you couldn't help but just trying to do what Greg was doing.
And he kind of can't.
Yeah. No.
I've never heard another drummer that plays like him either.
And his drumming in Mother Love Bone is you know, absolutely solid.
Yeah.
But you don't get the sense of his ability.
Yeah, he had
agreed.
I like the 10 Minute Warning always had these sections in our songs, not every song, but quite a few of them that were never set in stone, that they were always open to interpretation once we played live, that kept things fresh.
That's fucking cool.
That was a really great aspect of the band. I don't think many bands leave that space available anymore.
Well, you know, we were the punk rock Hawkwind after all.
Yeah. Straight out of that was at the Black Flag Eagles Nest thing.
Yeah.
You know, I got off doing a sound check, and Henry was laying there. I walked past him and he goes, "Man, I really like what you're doing. It's really got a Hawkwind vibe." And I didn't know Hawkwind at all. And I went up to Mary Edwards' house right after that because I knew she would know. And she pulls out the Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do album.
That's a great record.
Turns me on to that, and I go, "Yeah, I can hear it, man." Even without even knowing who these guys were, it kind of channeled its way through me.
Yeah,
the band.
That's amazing.
I'm trying really hard to get a copy of Henry, because A, he
Oh.
said that, and B, I think he'd love it. So if either
Yeah.
of you have a way to reach him.
I don't
I
know.
will-
I haven't got in touch with Henry Rollins at all, so I wouldn't know how to reach him. I could try to find his PR if you like and give you that.
I
That'd be
can probably get it to him through Jeff Larson through Duff.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah,
I just
I will.
all I want to do is
I will-
I just want to send him a copy of the record. Just have a little handwritten note, you know.
Yeah.
okay.
Like it? If so, it'd be great if you play it. If not, okay. But I think you will.
You're going to
Yeah.
be played on Hard Rock Hell Radio tomorrow. You've been played on my radio show already.
Awesome.
Regularly, and people love it.
Yeah.
On my 3-hour special, I played early 10-minute warning, and I played something from This Could Be Heaven as well, just to give them both sides of the coin of the band too.
Give my love to England and their football. I love it.
I will. I will mention that. Absolutely.
I'm a big Chelsea fan.
Nice.
Yeah.
Chelsea
I don't really
Okay.
have one, but I might want to pick one just to have something.
Yeah. I think it raises your cred with those people because it's like their religion there.
Yeah.
So
Right. All I know is you never walk alone by the Addicts. Maybe I should just jokingly say, yeah, I support Liverpool.
yeah, that wouldn't be too bad for you. They're in second place right now.
Okay.
So
All right. Well, is there
speaking of,
anything
I
else,
got a
you
game
guys?
that I want to
Because-
go catch out.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up, guys?
I got nothing. I'm just glad I got to pitch the Bandcamp link because
Yeah.
I'm hoping people will check it out and maybe buy a few copies, you know.
I shared it on my public figure page, so you know.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
spreading the word. I'm doing what I can. We'll put the link in the description. I'm really honored I got to finally talk to you guys and meet you face to face after years of just, you being this mysterious, like, I want to reach that level type thing,
Oh, we're hardly mysterious.
Oh, yeah.
How do I do this?
But all
There
right,
we go.
guys.
There you go.
So I've already covered my last question earlier, which is what do you guys love about music? If you want to answer it again, just because I said it, you can. If not, pretty much wrap it up.
Last thing I'll say about what I love about music, you're a prime example. You're half our age, if even less, even that, and you know more about some of the stuff that was going on when we were playing than so music it's cliche, but it just surpasses everything. Race, creed, color, religion, doesn't matter.
Agreed.
You like it, you love it.
It's universal.
Yeah.
And it has the capacity to express anything that you're feeling or thinking, however,
Yeah.
just the entire range of emotional possibility can be expressed through music, which is some pretty heavy stuff if you think about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did the no camera thing.
Yeah, right?
The
Yeah.
lighting's horrible.
You're only going to be visible for this last part. So,
Okay.
but all
You're
right,
lighting
guys.
together.
It has been an honor. I thank you. And hey,
Yeah.
guys, if you like what we're doing on this channel, interviewing Daniel House, Paul Solger, and many others, like that button, hit the subscribe, check out the Bandcamp link at the bottom, and leave a comment. I'm sure Daniel and Paul here will be going through the comments and stuff. Definitely leave them
Yeah,
some
be
love.
nice.
Yeah, be nice. But all right, guys. Until next time, I'm Thunders, and this has been Daniel House and Paul Solger of 10-Minute Warning. I thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy.
Cheers.